Guys, I've got Professor Bart Kay here with me. Thank you for having this discussion, Professor. There's a couple of things that I wanted to have a chat to you about to help our friendly people who are watching this video, and it's really on um, around nutritional science and a couple of things that people have got, a misunderstanding about. And one of those things is diabetes.
Hmm.
Before watching your videos, I had a different perception of what diabetes is, what the pathology is. And after watching a few of your videos, my views have changed around it. So could you please explain to the public here what diabetes is and what it isn't?
Cool. Well, thanks for having me. It's really a pleasure to come and cross-pollinate and glad to be here. Right. Type 2 diabetes is elevated blood glucose chronically and nothing else. That's what it is. That's how it's diagnosed. That's the pathology, and that's the thing that any interventions that are suggested are supposed to have an effect on. Let's get this blood sugar down. So that's the pathology. That's what's wrong. That's what they're trying to fix. That's what they're diagnosing. That's what it is.
Yep.
It is a blood glucose dysfunction. You have too much glucose in your blood chronically.
Mm.
That's the type 2 diabetic presentation. From there, what we are told by almost everybody out there, the so-called gold standard consensus opinion, here's what they'll tell you. Well, the reason that your blood glucose is elevated is because you have this mystical, magical thing called insulin resistance.
Yep. There it is.
That's what they'll tell you. And they'll say
Mm.
that's the actual etiology, that's the underpinning cause of the diabetes, that's the cause of the problem.
Mm. Mm.
No. Insulin resistance is a construct, which means this is a measurement, a variable, something that we are appending a value to of some kind, but it's not something we are directly measuring. There is no such thing as an insulin resistance meter. You cannot, well, you can do a Google search if you like and see if you can find a company that makes a Google resistance, sorry, Google resistance. That's what they really should make, an insulin resistance meter.
Yeah.
You won't find one. They don't exist. This is not a physiological um, response. This is not an actual thing. This is not a phenomenon. This is a construct. It's an idea. And what we are told universally by the so-called gold standard authorities on this is that this so-called insulin resistance is a pathology. Absolutely, because it's that which leads, they say, to the elevated blood glucose.
Mm.
Okay. Actually, what they are observing by taking the readings that they are taking and putting into their magical little sums that make up this thing called insulin resistance, what they're actually looking at is the efficacy with which glucose is allowed to enter the cells of your body from the blood. Usually what happens in the normal circumstances, there is an amount of glucose in the blood, and it's there because the tissues need it.
Mm.
Now, that doesn't mean you need to eat glucose. Your body makes all the glucose it needs itself. So let's not get confused about that. There is glucose in your blood. Your body puts it there. It's called gluconeogenesis if you want to look it up. Fine. That glucose is there because the cells need it. When the cells need some glucose, they will allow that glucose to enter that cell. And that is mediated from the outside by insulin, the thing we're talking about. So insulin binds to the GLUT4 transporter in such a way as to make it active for transporting glucose into the cell.
Hmm.
And that's what happens. Glucose pours into the cell until such a time as that cell, because of inside environment, decides, I have enough sugar now. I don't want any more sugar. Here's what they do. The cell locks that GLUT4 transporter from the inside so that no amount of insulin
Mm.
knocking on the door trying to bring the sugar in will work. The transporter is deactivated. It's a thing called the Randall cycle.
Mm.
We've known about it since 1963 when it was published by Sir Philip Randall. It's a piece of physiology that you won't find in many textbooks. You won't hear it being discussed by those in the know, so-called, in physiology. It's been largely swept under the old carpet there since 1962 or 3. My opinion on the reason for it being swept under the carpet is because it ran at odds with what Ansel Keys was saying at the time. And Ansel Keys was a very powerful figure by then, and it was Ansel Keys and his influence that stomped on this thing, I would suggest. Nonetheless, it is a thing. It does exist. It is part of your metabolic process, and it's designed to protect your cells from what's it called? We'll call it
Glycation.
damage. Like, that's the word. Thank you. Glycation. Goodness, I've been losing words since I turned 50. I wonder if that's a sign. Glycation. Yes, it's a damage called glycation. It's glucose and fructose molecules binding to the various structures of your body, your cellular structures, the proteins and things like that, thus changing their conformation and interfering with their function. It's a form of progressive tissue damage that leads to the complete dysfunction of your tissues. Not a good thing. So how we protect our cells from that damage is we make sure that the amount of glucose entering the cells is limited. And then we have a sacrificial lamb, if you like, or a sacrificial anode, if you want to think in nautical terms, where you have the red blood cells and the cells that line the vascular tree, the endothelial cells. Those can get damaged by high amounts of glucose and fructose, but that's okay because every X number of days, about a month, you're going to slew all of those cells out of there, the red cells and the endothelial cells, and they're all going to be replaced with new ones. Because those cells are very simple, they're very easy to reproduce very quickly. They actually derive directly from CD34 plus adult stem cells, as it turns out. Isn't that interesting? We'll talk about those later if it becomes relevant to this discussion. So what your cell is doing there is locking the door from the inside to say, oh, I've got enough sugar, thanks, we don't need any more. And if you continue to pour sugar into the bloodstream inappropriately, that will have the toxic effect of destroying your red blood cells and your endothelial cells, but it won't do the same level of damage to the more important tissues. So that's what's really going on. Nothing to do with this so-called insulin resistance. That's just nonsense.
Okay.
It's your body doing exactly what it's designed to do. It is reacting. Your genes are reacting to the environment in which they are placed at the time.
Right.
Basically. They're doing exactly what they should do. Those genes having survived at least 3,800 million years. Probably much longer than that, it seems. So that's that one. Insulin resistance? No.
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 So to wrap it up, it's really not an issue with insulin, the hormone. It's not that is not the pathology. It's about the elevated blood glucose levels. So the way that is typically diagnosed is through blood testing. Is that correct? Through the HBA1C levels, or a continuous glucose monitoring, over a period of time. Now, I want to get into should I say it's an issue or something that's sort of popped up around the carnivore community is that people sharing their blood glucose results or their A1Cs in, public forums like Facebook groups and whatnot. And they ask, is this going to be a concern? Because when I went on a carnivore diet over a period of time, my HbA1c levels were elevated to a point where a medical professional could diagnose that as a pre-diabetic. Could you explain sort of how that works and why we shouldn't or should worry about it?
Right. Yes. When the thresholds are devised by those in the medical fraternity, for want of a better term, they are talking about an average value of damage to the red blood cells due to glucose derangement, the HbA1c value, that is a blood test that makes a number of assumptions. It assumes that your red blood cells have a lifespan of X number of days. There is good initial evidence that's now being published in recent months in the literature to suggest what we have suspected all along, which is that in the case of a person eating a purely carnivorous diet, or close to that even, that person's red blood cells tend to live longer. Ergo, the most basic assumption of the HbA1c test is invalid for a carnivore eating person. It will be elevated because of the fact that the lifespan of the red blood cell exceeds that to which would be expected were you eating a standard diet. Ergo, there will be more collection over more time of more glucose, and the A1C will be artificially elevated.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's no good as a measurement. What you really need to do as a carnivore eating person is to trace your blood glucose using a CGM, a continuous blood glucose monitor. Why do I say that? Here is why. That average value for A1C that they give you in the medical profession,
Yes.
above this value means you are diabetic. Below this level means you are pre-diabetic, and lower than that is normal.
Yes.
And they have threshold cutoffs for what that value is. That doesn't mean that that average value across time is what's doing the damage, because a person eating a standard diet has a blood glucose that will go up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down throughout the day, every single day of their lives, by virtue of what they're pouring down their necks. Carbohydrates.
Yes.
Unnecessary carbohydrates that are causing these huge spike and trough situations in that person's blood glucose level. Okay. Where the damage is being done is up here. At the peaks, not here at the average value that would result if the peaks were up there and the troughs were down there. In your case, Joff, as a person that eats a carnivore diet, your blood glucose line is pretty flat, vastly flat compared to anyone on any standard diet.
Yeah.
So there's no evidence extant anywhere in the literature, anywhere that can suggest to you that an A1C of even 6 as a carnivore eater is problematic or is likely to subject you to any risk of anything whatsoever, ever, over any time frame. It's a false interpretation of a test based on assumptions that are false. The underpinning logic is entirely flawed, therefore the assertion is flawed. Does that make sense?
That makes total sense. And I do wish that, people would watch this video and watch your other videos on this, because
Me too.
Yeah. If you haven't already, watch Bart's videos on his YouTube channel.
Indeed, please do. Before we move off insulin and all of that, though, if we're going to, we do need to make it clear that I'm not saying, and I never have said, that chronic hyperinsulinemia is not in and of itself a problem. It is.
Yes.
So that's as distinct from saying insulin resistance is a thing and it's the cause of diabetes, which it isn't. Yeah. There is no pathology. The body is doing what it should do.
Yeah.
The way that you should deal with diabetes type 2 is stop pouring carbohydrates down your neck, period. That's the cure. Nothing else, just that. And wait, because it will take time for your body to heal. Why didn't it fix itself overnight then if this advice is so good? Well, how long did it take you to mess your health up?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Anyway, right, done with that. Cool.
Done with that. Well, thank you. That will be very good for people to hear that message, because it's still something that people misunderstand, and it's crazy that it still goes on, because, like you said, this is not new information. Like this has been going on for decades. The sort of research behind it. Now, next topic that I want to talk about, the next sort of misunderstanding that people get around is the cause of heart disease.
Mm,
And I know this topic has been hot of late because you've made a recent video undertaking, a response to someone online about this.
mm,
But the cause of heart disease,
yep.
cholesterol, lipoproteins,
Mm,
and saturated fats,
mm.
are they the causal factor for heart disease?
Absolutely, unequivocally, definitely not any one of the things you've just listed. No,
Hmm.
none of those things cause heart disease to occur. How can I back that up logically? Which research papers will I tap for that? Because I never give my sources, therefore I'm not credible. Apparently, no, it's the sources that are not credible. Let's do this
Hmm.
with basic logic, shall
Hmm.
we? Here it goes. Where do atherosclerotic lesions occur in the vascular tree?
Stick my hand up here.
Yep, please.
In the high pressure side, the arteries?
Correct. Okay. Do atheroscleroses ever develop on the low pressure side of the vasculature, the venous system? No. Is the venous system responsible for carrying the self same blood that was carried out that direction by the arterial system? Yes.
Hmm.
Are the cells of the endothelial nature lining the venous side of the vasculature, are they morphologically any different from the arterial endothelial cells? No. Is the intermittent media slightly different? Yes. Could that be a factor? Possibly, but we'll deal with that soon. So in the meantime, just let me arbitrarily say no and stick around because I will explain why I'm saying no in a minute.
Hmm.
It's not that either. Is there anything meaningfully different otherwise between the blood in one side of the vasculature versus the other? No, there isn't. So there's the end of it. Assuming that I'm correct about what I said about arbitrarily saying no about the differences in morphology.
Hmm.
But that's it. That's the end of it. Because if the cause of the disease was cholesterol or the lipoproteins that carry cholesterol or saturated fat in the diet in some way, then an atherosclerotic lesioning would occur on both sides of the vascular tree. That does not happen. End of discussion. Basic logic. Cause and effect, real objective things in the universe that we can say, look, that does not work.
Hmm.
To which they'll often say, oh, yes, but the lipoproteins are necessary but not sufficient for the disease process. Well, then they're not the cause, are they?
Hmm.
You've just admitted it
Yeah.
right there by saying what you've just said, those
Yeah.
people that say that. In actual fact, there's no evidence that it's necessary for the disease either.
Hmm.
None at all. There is no cause and effect evidence linking cholesterol or lipoproteins or any fraction of the lipoproteins or any specific anything to do with lipoproteins and heart disease. Nothing.
Hmm.
Okay. Let's go a bit further though. If that's not enough for you, if that doesn't do it for you, if you still think, well, still some assumptions there. Okay, fine. Let's look at this. All right, so it's only the high pressure side of the vasculature where we see these atherosclerotic lesions developing. Do they develop evenly across the entire surface of the endothelial cells exposed to the arterial blood on that side? No, sir, they don't. Atherosclerotic lesioning occurs predictably, mappably, repeatably, and absolutely in a set pattern in absolutely predictable anatomical zones within the vascular tree. Where? At bifurcations where a vessel splits in two, and at curves such as the aortic arch,
Hmm.
for example. All right. What is coincident with that pattern of atherosclerotic lesioning, absolutely consistent with, measurably consistent with turbulent blood flow. Because again, if it was a combination of pressure and the presence of these so-called atherogenic lipoproteins, cholesterol and saturated fat so-called, then on the high pressure side, the pattern would be even and predictable as a even patterning across the endothelium of the high pressure side. It doesn't happen. It only happens where turbulent flow occurs. Atherosclerotic lesioning does not occur outside of those zones. That is the end of the lipoprotein argument, right there. What causes atherosclerosis? Physical damage to specific zones of the high pressure side of the vasculature as mediated and caused, cause and effect, by turbulent flow, and as aggravated, made worse, more likely than not, by glycolytic damage. So you've got physical injury, you've got glycolytic damage, you've got inflammation, you've got retention of LDL, which happens, of course, because LDL delivers the cholesterol to the injury for the exact purpose of repairing that injury. Most people don't know that 50% by weight and volume of every membrane of every cell in your body is cholesterol. And the only way to get it there is to deliver it using LDL. LDL is the fireman at the forest fire, not the arsonist that causes the fire. So that's the deal on heart disease. It is caused by turbulent blood flow, which is most powerfully and predictably moderated by one's blood pressure.
There it is.
Now, remember how I said before that chronically elevated insulin in the blood might be a problem? Here it is. If you have a high level of insulin in your blood, that causes your kidneys to be unable to excrete sodium. That will have an effect on your blood pressure, causing turbulent flow in your vasculature. The way that you get insulin up in your body and keep it up all the time is to pour carbohydrates down your neck, which also cause glycolytic damage to those cells that are being physically damaged by that turbulent flow. That's the cause of your heart disease. What's the solution? Same as before. Stop eating carbohydrates. There you go. I should get a Nobel Prize, frankly, for that, but I won't because I can't charge anybody millions of dollars for a drug that'll cause this to occur. You just need to stop eating carbohydrates.
That's it. It's an easy
That's
fix,
it.
hey?
Yeah, it doesn't cost a thing to do. And it doesn't cost me a thing to tell you that that's what you need to do. What it will cost you is a bit of time to check into what I've just said and try and find a hole in it anywhere. Because I tell you what, some pretty high-level academics have been trying to poke holes in me for 20-something years and not one of them's achieved it yet. Logic. There you go. There it is.
And no citations required.
None required at all.
None required.
No.
Oh gosh. Well, look, that is a really good segue into what I wanted to get into next because, the damage, the glycolytic damage to your endothelial cells, um, you know, uh, on top of that, the other toxins we pour down in our necks as well, like seed oils and stuff like that, they would of course cause damage to our cells as well, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And we do this for, or a lot of us who've lived in this modern society would have eaten these foods for decades. So
Yeah,
the
40 years
damage,
I did it for 40 years before I woke
yeah,
up.
yeah. And so the damage that would have been sustained, it's hard to, it's pretty easy to imagine, and it's quite reflective of how, you know, um, the society looks like right now in terms of their health and well-being.
Yeah.
Doesn't look too good.
Mm.
But you touched on this earlier on when we are talking about diabetes, is the adult stem cells
Mm.
that just popped out of there, and what are they, and how do they fit into the equation in terms of how the body works?
Awesome question. Love it. Well, here we go. Inside the bone marrow of your long bones, you will find a population of what's called CD34 plus adult stem cells. They reside in your bone marrow quite happily. They live there basically as an immortal cell line because they have telomerase. We'll get to that another day.
Hmm.
And they will sit there and wait until they're needed. And when they're needed, your body sends a signal that they're needed, and they're released into the bloodstream. And the adult stem cell will tool around in the blood for a bit until it finds a tissue that needs repairing. So if that's an endothelial cell of your vascular tree, it's going to find it pretty quickly.
Hmm.
And it's going to bind to that cell that's damaged, melt it down, um, recycle what it can, get rid of any junk it can't, and differentiate into a brand new cell to replace the one that's damaged.
Hmm.
That's your basic repair and renewal mechanism of the human body. Not only epithelial cells do these CD34 adult stem cells become, they also turn into red blood cells, white blood cells, immune cells, and in fact, any other cell in your body whatsoever
Hmm.
of any kind except sperm or eggs, which is probably a good thing.
Yeah.
Who wants those?
Hmm.
Not me. Here's the problem, though. Also encoded into your genetic structure is a biological clock that gauges your actual biological age. How does it do that? Well, all the cells in your body have a set amount of time between generations, and when that time is up for that cell line, each cell will split into two because one of them is probably unviable or whatever else. There have been other cells that have been lost before they managed to. So to keep cell numbers the same in a
Hmm.
tissue, we have to continually replace cells that are dying off.
Yeah.
So that's this binary division thing every X amount of time.
Hmm.
And it's the number of generations of splitting in half that the body tracks to decide how old you are biologically. How does that happen? On the end of every chromosome in your genetic structure in your cells,
Hmm.
there's a little length of DNA on the end of it. It's like the
Hmm.
aglet on the end of a shoelace, that plastic sleeve that stops the shoelace fraying.
Hmm.
That's what they are.
Aglets. Oh, okay.
That's what they're called, aglets. But in the case of your chromosomes, they're called telomeres.
Hmm.
Every time a cell divides, a portion of the telomere is ejected. It gets shorter. When the telomere reaches a certain critical short length, that tells that cell to no longer divide. So when it dies, that's the end of it. It's not replaced. Unless a CD34 adult stem cell gets there in time to replace it with a brand new cell that, by the way, because of the telomerase in the adult stem cell, has a
Hmm.
biological age of 0. It's brand new tissue.
Hmm.
Now, I'm not saying fountain of youth, these stem cells. I'm just saying, well, you do your math on that and work that one out. The more tissues in your body are tissues that have been replaced by adult stem cells, the younger, in effect, you're going to be, the tissues of your body, in effect.
Hmm.
Okay, cool. Here's the problem. The thing that's encoded into your DNA, along with here's the clock,
Hmm.
as that clock gets shorter, as those telomeres get shorter, the other thing that happens at the same time is your ability to release adult stem cells drops just when
Hmm.
you'd need it more. Why does that happen? Well, because the natural design is for you to have a set lifespan to pass away and leave space for the next generation.
Hmm.
You're not supposed to live forever. So it
Hmm.
becomes harder and harder and harder for your body to release the stem cells. Your supply of them is the same as it was when you were born. You can't run out of these things,
Hmm.
but your ability to get them to where they need to be drops.
Right.
And that's a real problem.
Hmm.
However, there's a solution. Isn't that great? Do you want to tell us about it, Joff?
Well, there is a solution because there is a product out in the market that can actually help or enhance the release of adult stem cells. That product is called Stem Enhance Ultra by Cerule, which, yeah, you can pretty much purchase through any of your independent business owners that you see online. Like Bart has got his on his screen right now. I've also got my own. IBO as well, which I will post in the video description wherever I post this
Mm,
on social media.
mm,
But yeah, it's something that I think people just it's so underrated, this whole space of adult stem cells, because people often look at, the sort of other health hacks, like, let's go on a carnivore diet. Well, yes, the carnivore diet is going to help you with, lowering inflammation and in, getting your body to a state where it is designed and supposed to be functioning. But it's the adult stem cells that do the repair and renew of the damaged cells caused likely by, the lifestyle you've lived prior to eating a carnivorous diet. So that's why I think it's such a game changer, and it was a game changer for me as well.
awesome. I would
Yeah.
say to folks watching this little film here
Mm,
that if you're interested in trying out Cerule products and seeing what they can do for you, if you're not already my customer or already an IBO in your own whatever, go and get it from Joff rather than buying it from me, because Joff's in my team, and if you buy it from Joff, we'll both get paid. That's how the thing works. So go and get it from him.
yep.
Basically, what is it? Okay, Stem Enhance Ultra is the flagship product, and what it does is it causes your bone marrow to release vastly more of the adult stem cells than it otherwise would have done.
Mm,
You will not run out, you cannot run out. But what this does do is reinvigorate your ability to repair and renew your body to more like what it was when you were a much younger individual than you are now.
yeah.
Isn't that awesome?
Yep.
Cool. I'd get onto that
Yeah.
yesterday. Best thing to do is to get what we call a wellness pack. It's got Stem Enhance Ultra, the flagship product. It also contains Cyactive, which is an anti-inflammatory, and Plasma Flow, which is a blood flow optimizer. Put them together in a pack. Looks like that.
Mm,
That's the cheapest way to do it. Unless, of course, you don't want to pay for them at all. In which case, let either Joff or me know, depending, and we'll tell you what the program is that can get that for you. It's not
mm.
even hard. Not even hard at all. Anyway, there we go. That's the rule.
Awesome. Hey, I just thought about a question as well, because this was actually someone asked me this. You've got a younger person, right? That says, "Hey, well, I'm still young, let's say in my 20s. Why do I
Mm,
need to take a product that will help me release adult stem cells? Like I'm
mm,
still
mm,
viable, and my
mm.
I should be releasing adult stem cells, right?
Yeah,
How do you
you
sort of
bet.
yeah.
Oh, look, that's a great question. And I have had that question a few times from younger people who are apparently fit and well and have
Hmm.
no hassles or problems or, whatever with their situation. Well, here's the answer. How long would you like that to remain the status quo? How long would you like to remain as healthy and vibrant and young as you are now?
Hmm.
Because I'll tell you what, increasing the circulating adult stem cell resources pretty much has to have the effect of maintaining that situation for longer.
Hmm.
Okay. What's it worth to you? Look, if I'd known about this stuff when I was 20 years of age
Hmm.
and understood what it was and started taking it then, wow, imagine.
Hmm. 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 Definitely.
I wish.
Yep. Me too.
I didn't find it until I was 39.
Wow.
And now,
Yeah.
for those that don't know, I'm 52.
So you've been taking it for quite a while too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if I show you a photograph of myself aged 39 and put
Hmm.
it right beside a photo of me taken today, aged 52, You'll know I'm slightly older in the second photo. I'm not saying you won't,
Mm.
but by no means would you say, well, there's a 13 or 14-year gap, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You just would say, no way.
Yeah.
The other thing I can do is put photographs of myself against images of people that I went to school with
Mm.
from Facebook now that I'm still connected with.
Yeah.
And you'll go, oh, yeah, it's obvious here that these people have aged like you'd expect 50-year-olds to have aged, and you haven't, apart
Mm.
from the
Mm.
male pattern baldness, which has nothing to do with age.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's right. The question about
Mm,
adult stem cells as well, they got asked.
yeah.
Does it do anything with the hair with the hair? Does it?
Apparently not, Joff. It's not a health concern. It's not a priority for your body to repair it. It's your
Uh,
body knows the best thing to do with the extra resources,
yeah,
and it'll take care of the most important stuff first. And
of
male
course.
pattern baldness is not a health issue at
No,
all.
fair
Mm.
enough. Fair enough.
Just means I have good tea.
Yeah, yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
Apparently, that's what it. Yeah.
yeah.
Mm. All right. Well, hey, look, I want to thank you for your time, Professor. Thank you so much for, having a good old chat with your boy here from Australia. Um, and yeah, thank you all for watching. See you all in the next video. All
See
right.
you then.
See you
Ciao.
then. See ya.